This is actually at Billy's house. That was shown in the opening sequence where they're sitting on the lawn. This is where John Gorman used to live. It was this little garage with an apartment above it, but it looked very cool. So the joke is that he stole the bed, but it doesn't make any sense because they were blocking the doorway and the bed can't fit through the window. And that was kind of the joke. And I don't know if everyone picks up on that, but I thought it was just funny. And the fact that they're already on the roof, the idea is that they're all drugged up. There's one or two shots with a BB gun, and we were using a light strobe. And then there was one or two shots where it was actually a gun with the barrel is blocked, and it would have blanks in it. And so there was actually a police officer on the set. It was a special gun that could not propel anything. Like if you saw the front of the gun, it was flat. So the only thing you could do with it is shoot from the side, and it would eject a blank. But it was really loud, and Matt Ford, it fired once. It fired next to his ear, and his hearing, I guess, was screwed up for months, which I felt bad about. But he said it's better now. So I always thought this was funny. They were shooting, and my character's throwing pillows, and then his character throws pillows back, and I'm throwing acorns, and he's saying stop throwing acorns, even though they're shooting and people are getting shot. It's real quick, but you're seeing these people run off the porch under the caution tape, and this is another way we marry two sets together. Ducking under the caution tape, we're changing locations. So you bring the caution tape, you have caution tape at the first location at the mansion, and then Wild Bill's, which is 20 minutes away, you put caution tape over there, and they duck under the tape, and that you cut on action, and that's the transition from one set to another. And so that's how you get away with a lot of this stuff. So it's a super cheap way to do this kind of thing, marrying two sets together without using CGI and without using all this extra budgetary stuff. And then this was Wild Bill sold fireworks, and we had one character throwing fireworks into the fight in order to distract people so they can steal something from the mayor. Our aesthetic was to do a lot of handheld stuff in these action scenes because we didn't have that much time to choreograph, and also if you elevate the shutter speed, so the shutter speed you can put up to, like in this kind of light, 1/200th instead of 1/50th, you go high shutter speed, and what that makes, it makes the action look stoppier, but it makes it look faster. So you'll see in movies like Gladiator they use elevated shutter speeds or high shutter speeds because it works. It just makes everything, when the camera pans and the hits, it looks jitterier and stoppier, but it looks more believable. Because if we were in a wide shot and you just saw this stuff at 1/50 shutter, you'd be like, it wouldn't look real. But with all the smoke everywhere, even this rolling coin, it's a really high shutter speed, so it probably looks faster than it is. So the camera pans, and then when we cut to this other shot, the arrow's already his mouth, but what we do is you start the shot panning over, and he's moving his head. So it looks like it kind of matches together.
But so was he.
So let's look at this. So he shows it. It kind of works, So it's that kind of stuff. You don't have to use CGI. You can do that kind of stuff. And the arrow had no tip on it, so no one got hurt. And he fired it once with everyone out of the way, with no tip on it, just out 20 feet into the dirt. And then Phil already had the arrow in his mouth, so they defeat the mayor, but the mayor's still in office, and this is, they steal a tape of him doing some naughty stuff, so it's showing, like, the corrupt mayor. This is a funny story. I was at a bar once, and I was talking about this movie. I was like, it was one of the last movies to be on the shelves at Blockbuster, and this guy who was much younger than I was said, well, that's the most irrelevant thing anyone's ever said to me. And it was funny. It was a very funny quip, and it hurt my feelings. But the one thing I'll say is that I'm definitely proud to be part of that era. I was very... If you knew how hard I had to fight to just become a direct-to-video person, Land of College Prophets and London Betty made me like a real direct-to-video guy because they got out there in a legitimate way. And so eventually went on streaming anyway. So it's you kind of just have to not listen to the haters and the naysayers. You just kind of have to keep going and making your movies. Because there are people out there who think that's super awesome, So it depends. So, and at the end, it's like this character Billy is like going to run for mayor, and this movie was very difficult to shoot and to put together. Took a year to do post-production and to try to deliver everything, and it was highly stressful. You got to be prepared to be working on these things like years after you're finished with photography. After this movie, we did a horror movie, originally called Mark of the Beast, but we made a new version. It was so different, and we put it out recently. It was called Exorcism of Fleete Marish, and I'm definitely really proud of that one. This one, when it went to Blockbuster and then Blockbuster went under, nothing really happened with it, and that was deeply disappointing to a lot of people, I think. So when we set out, the goal really was to, we wanted to get in Blockbuster at Video. At the time, that was the biggest franchise. I have a resentment for Blockbuster Video and how they dominated the video store industry in an unethical way because of the deals they had directly with the studio system. We still wanted to get in those stores because we wanted to climb up a ladder, and that's the difficult part of independent filmmaking is there's not much of a ladder. What you can try to do is keep making movies, maybe bigger and bigger movies. But what had happened was Mark of the Beast was a smaller film than this one. We kind of shrunk everything. So the truth is, even though we hit a mark with Blockbuster Video, the film didn't really go anywhere. So rather than give up, we just moved on to make another horror film. So the point is just don't give up, keep going. Even if a few years go by, maybe you can pick yourself up off the ground and try to make something else. I ended up pivoting to documentary because I got into a position where I couldn't spend money on any of this stuff anymore. And so I could do documentaries for pretty much nothing. And so that's when I pivoted to VHS Massacre and VHS Massacre 2. And that actually worked really well. Those are the most popular things I've ever done, So, but, a lot of the skills that I learned in making these narrative films, a lot of the skills ended up paying off in the documentary world. Because in no budget narrative, you're desperate to try to entertain the audience. And you're cutting things down and you're tightening them up, and you want to be an audience advocate, and you want to care about what the audience thinks. So it's a real struggle. It's very hard to test things and get feedback and make cuts. It can be brutal, and it can mess with your ego and mess with your self-esteem. But you just got to keep going. But when I pivoted to documentary, I had kind of been weathered. At this point, I think the Mark of the Beast was my 8th movie. So VHS Massacre 1 and 2 are 9 and 10. And so a lot of the editing skills and pacing skills, a lot of that stuff had been sharpened through cutting all of these independent films. And so you really never know how things are going to pay off. I know when I got a job in academia 15 years ago, if you could believe that, they, at the very least, were impressed that I did legitimate feature-length independent film releases, that were distributed. So it mattered. And so you really just never know. You can put a lot of effort into a thing and think it kind of bombed out, but usually you're going to get something from it. You're going to sharpen your skills. Somehow it will help you in your career, or you'll just grow as a human being.